6 kilograms of sugar, it's going to be around about there in one of these metal buckets. So quite a bit of sugar down here in this pan. But just cooking with sugar and water alone, we would not be able to make any sweets. So this is important now. We've also got 3 kilograms of some wheat-derived glucose syrup in that pot as well. Now, unfortunately, the glucose syrup we use in this factory is wheat-derived. It also means we've got a bit of gluten in it as well. So together then with just a little bit of water, a very high temperature, we've got this sugar right up to 154 degrees Celsius. Sugar here is very hot, as we can see, practically cooking away still on this table. We'll start by trapping the sugar down here between these bars, because this is where we can also continue to put some other ingredients in. So just trying to get as much of the sugar from this pan and lid as possible, and we can begin. So in our factory, when we make our sweets, we only use natural flavors and colors. For these sweets in here today, we're going to be using little bit here of some red and yellow natural colors. Also got a couple of cups here of some powders, some citric acid or sour powder. This is dextrose powder, and of course we've got our natural flavors, rhubarb and custard. But like in any other sweet making demonstration, we're going to start off very quickly with our food colors. Little bit of some yellow up the top part of our table. Catherine will start to stir them in nicely for us. A little bit of some dark red food coloring in here as well. And I'm also going to need to do the same. It is very, very important this color gets soaked into the sugar properly. Otherwise, when it's time to pick the sugar up, time to play about with it, very easily we could stain our gloves or even our bits of machinery. So we just need to make sure we don't have any dark streaks with this color over our sugar. It looks like we're ready now for our next ingredients. Next ingredients in here will be up our table. This is dextrose powder. So dextrose here, a bit like a dextrose energy drink we're able to buy down the shop. It's a special type of sugar. Special sugar, very special job, because that's going to soak up a couple of ounces of our natural custard flavor. Now this is because if I try tipping that flavor somewhere down here directly on top of the sugar, because the sugar is still very, very hot, we're going to lose most of the flavor to evaporation. So the idea here is have the flavor soaked up by the powder, stir the powder back into our sugar. So that's going to be our custard, rhubarb pass here. Little bit of some sour powder or citric acid powder. Now this is because rhubarb is citrus, so this is also going to be helping us with the taste of today's sweets. And again, that's also going to soak up a couple of ounces of our natural rhubarb flavor. Bit more of the sour powder, citric acid over the top of that. Just like Catherine is already doing, I'm also going to need to do the same. Just make sure I've got all my ingredients stirred and soaked up into the sugar properly. So this is it. These are actually all the ingredients we'll be using in here with us today. Help us now make these natural rhubarb and custard sweets. And now that we've got all the ingredients we need in the sugar, all that we're left to do here is to get the sugar to cool evenly. To do that, we're going to need to get the sugar to come away from the corners of our table. I'm going to start off by hitting the sidebar away. Our sugar here now should have just about cooled enough to start to keep and hold to its own shape. So we see that now. There we go. Now, as well as behaving like this, it's also supposed to be peeling away from the corners of the table quite easily. And again it does. This is because before this demonstration, we've soaked this table up with a little bit of some oil. Now, next thing we're going to need to do now is to split the sugar into 2 bits. Cut this rhubarb away from our custard piece here. Now, from this point onwards, I'm also going to try to work with these bits individually until we get close to making up our sweets. We'll then pick up both bits here, we'll stick them up together, end up here then with one very large rhubarb and custard sweet. But first, we need to pick the sugars right off the top parts of the table. Running past the sugar, being the top parts, needs to go back again down to the table. This also needs to cool. So effectively, very, very quickly, we'll just turn the sugar over. Running past would have been the top parts to start off with, now down to the table first. Bottom parts here in our hands, so we're not burning ourselves just yet. We'll just leave the sugar onto itself here to cool for a bit. So the sugar came off the fire, very high temperature, 154 degrees Celsius. But the temperature of the sugar here now on this table has gone down very, very quickly already to somewhere around about 130 degrees. All this means is very, very quickly the sugar is losing a lot of heat. Then again, this is only because of the table we're working on down here. This is a cold setting table. And we call this table the cold one because we have got very cold water that stays in the thickness of the table here. This cold water then chills the table for us, and the table here actively is working a bit like a fridge. In turn, then now should have made already again the bottom parts of the sugar lose a lot more heat very quickly as compared to the top runny parts, and it has as well. So to help us then get the sugar to cool evenly, when we pick our sugars up, we like to fold them inwards. Coolest parts of the sugar, being the bottom parts here, would always go into the center of our folds. This way we're sure then, as the sugar cools, it's going to be cooling evenly. Because now it's important we don't end up having any hard, set or solid bits of sugar in the batch. So sugar here, warm like it is, as you can see and imagine, can also be very, very sticky. The sugar has got an actual bad habit of getting stuck into our gloves or any cool bits of machinery it's going to come in contact with. Again, because of that, we have already coated everything in here with a bit of this powder. This is Italian talc. Italian talc here is slab gas, is a food grade powder. So this talc here is unlike the talc we've got in our homes. This talc powder is specially designed for food use only, and it's the same powder we can see you'll find over a bits of machinery, even over the cloth here. So that's more sugar. It's only to make it difficult to have that sugar stack or set into everything in here. So working and playing with the sugar now, getting it to go down in temperature to somewhere around about 65-70 degrees Celsius. This part of the sweet making process, we work with the sugar by feel and from experience. Because we know as soon as the sugar starts to feel a little bit like Play-Doh or plasticine, like it does here now, the temperature range would be indeed right, 65 to 70 degrees Celsius. Now, the minute we start to find the sugar ready, we're going to need to get it off the table, continue to work with it elsewhere. And Catherine is just tap that sugar, giving me a sign that her sugar is ready. We're going to ask her now then to get the sugar off the table, move it down to the next table. So the next table down there is a hot table. Hot table there, opposite to the cooling table here. It's not going to reheat that sugar up, it's just going to keep it at a steady temperature for me, 65 to 70 degrees Celsius. That's going to buy me enough time to work about freely with this larger piece down here. Because this larger piece here is going to need to go to an extra process, which would be down there through the pulling machine. But before I do that, I'm going to ask us all please to make a note of the color, the size, and the texture of our sugar. So sugar here, it looks a little bit like colored glass as we can see. Making a note of the size of our sugar as well, so the size, the color, and the texture of the sugar. Because next we're going to start to notice certain differences as I take the sugar further on there and have it put through the pulling machine. So, this would be our pulling machine. Using this can be tricky sometimes, you just need to bear with me. Because I now need to have the sugar wrap around a couple of the bars down here. Also need to have these bars moving around very, very quickly before the sugar sits or falls back off again. So, sometimes this works first time round. Sometimes sugar needs a couple of goes to settle. Then again, we're going to wait and see. We're going to find out what's going to happen here next as we try to have the sugar cooled and stretched out. So a quick wrap around the bars down here, trying to hold the sugar in place. So we'll start to have our sugar cooled and stretched out. There's sugar on the base of that tray. We'll get that up in a minute. So all I'm trying to do here now with this machine is to help me aerate our sugar. We're just trying to have a bit of air trapped or fixed into the sugar whilst these bars are moving about freely. The trapped air in the sugar here now then is going to be responsible for the slight change in colour we can already see building up. Now as well as the slight change in colour, we also expect a change in texture. Because once this egg is put trapped into the sugar, it doesn't come back out again. Also going to be helping us now get the start of our sweet today to go crumbly or crunchy as compared to this much more solid bit of rhubarb we still got kept nice and warm for us down here on our hot table. So the more times the sugar gets cooled out, as we can see, the lighter the colour should become. Again, much crumblier or crunchier. Sweet should be when you're made. So just trying to help the sugar along here. Important we're left with a nice even change in colour and in texture, so we don't have to have any dark patches wrapped around those bars. So we'll free that up again. So I did ask us all then to make a note of the colour, the size, the texture of our sugar. I'm not going to talk about the colour parts anymore. We've gone from a translucent look to a much more solid colour in here. Size, texture of our sugar, slightly different story. Because all the air that changes the colour and the texture of the sugar literally is being trapped in our sugar. Already giving the sugar a much more open structure, meaning next now as we're about to find out, the sugar should have nicely grown in size for us. Because this here is what the sugar looks like right now. So sugar nicely aerated, nicely blown up for us. And it's time for us to make ourselves, like every other time, we always start off with one very large sweet. This would mean now we need to make ourselves one very large rhubarb and custard sweet. To make this one large sweet, I'm going to need to work alongside Catherine again on our hot table down here. I'm going to try and get rid of some of these lines and grooves stuck into the sugar by the pulling machine. To do that, I'm going to simply give the sugar a little bit of a knead in, because kneading the sugar stretches the top half of it for me and should leave me now with a nice new top layer coating we need for our sweets. See, Catherine is perfectly shaped up a bit of rhubarb for us. Just going to try and shape up a bit of custard as well here to match this rhubarb piece. I'm going to start off very quickly by turning over our bits of rhubarb. Sugar's here, so kept nice and warm, nice and soft, so easily I'm going to do this. One sugar on top of the other. Going to give the sugar a moment or two just to bond back into each other. I did say we're going to start off by making ourselves one very large sweet. So here we go. Onto one side, rounding away, size and edges of our sugar. Now making us one very large rhubarb and custard sweet. So a large sweet like this one here today should be making us over 2,000 little sweeties. To make 2,000 sweets from a large chunk like this one, it comes off the hot table, comes down here, and this is a batch rolling machine. So in here we've got 4 heated rollers keeping the sugar warm. It is still very, very important the sugar stays nice and warm, nice and soft, still again between 65 to 70 degrees Celsius until we finally get it shaped up into the sweets we need. Now the sugar is still very, very warm, very, very sticky, so we're going to need to use again a very light sprinkling of a bit more of that talc over the sugar. And my gloves as well, thank you Catherine. And hopefully this is going to minimize or avoid it. Now getting stuck up in here through the roster plastic dyeing machine. Because our job here next now is to continually work and thin the sugar down. Tip of our sugar here, around about finger size. We're going to get this finger size tip to go now in here, do a couple of sizing plates. Now the sizing plates here will also help us grip the sugar. Feeding wet the sugar in here through the roster flask where we've got a dye. Dye picks up the sugar for us, starts to crimp. Shape and size it up, and there we go. We're making up some sweets right now. Feels good. Second one now. Second one. So again, a 6 kilogram batch like we're working with today for this demonstration should be making us well over 2,000 little sweeties down here. But up here in this machine, the roster plus, we've got ourselves a dye. Different dyes in our factory for the various shapes and sizes depending on the sweets we need to make. And examples of some of the dyes we use in our factory help us shape up either one of the sweets you see in here would be dyes that you can also see lined up here on the wall behind us or even out there on the bottom of the shelves behind you. So this will mean without dyes like these ones here or out there behind yourselves, you would have had to come in only to see myself and Catherine. Large pairs of scissors, our big knives, now trying very hard to shape or size up over 2,000 sweets for this demonstration. Now that would have meant we're going to be stood out there for quite a while. So one of the easier or quickest ways then to helping us get these sweets crimped or shaped up like we can see, again is by simply using a roster plus or rotating die like we have in here with us today. So after all our sweets have been crimped and shaped up, you then put onto that bell down there, very, very slowly, then taken down onto that carousel machine. The carousel down there is working opposite to one extractor fan. This is also bringing in cool air through the big pipe here, along the pipe on the side, to the vents to spring this air all around our sweets. Very, very important. We have all the sweets here just made cool as soon as possible. Otherwise, again, because the sugar is still slightly warm, slightly sticky, all the sweets you just made down there would only start very easy to stick to each other and also continue to lose the just given shapes and sizes. So again, because we don't want that to happen in here to us today, my last job here next then, now going to be the easiest one of all, is simply reach into these sweets, pick them up, give them a tap, get them to break down. And again, this is so we can be sure the sweets we have made have come out in fine individual bits. So, half a dozen bits of equipment, some nice easy steps, and still a very, very simple process. Again, with only a 6 kilogram batch of sugar. 3 kilograms, let's not forget, with that wheat-derived glucose syrup in here. So these sweets would definitely have a bit of gluten in them. A little bit of water at very high temperature. And we're going to say around about 20 minutes or so of both times. You just watch us make over 2,000 sweets. Some of our sweets are just about ready. But before I come out with you, before you help yourself to a little word of caution. It is said, if we try to bite into a warm sweet, like you be helping yourself here into in a minute, as these sweets begin to set in your mouth, is sometimes I've got the awkward habit of being able to pulling out any loose teeth or teeth fillings if we've got any. So I'm now going to suggest to us all, as these sweets are coming out, you're going to be helping yourselves to a few. I'm going to kindly ask us please to suck on our sweets. We need to make sure they have been cooled properly.